Oh, welcome to my car today, Scott Agnew,
Hello.
the comedian.
Nice to see you.
You too. I think you are my first comedian.
Oh, really?
Aye.
Right, because normally comedians hold themselves out for podcasts at the drop of a hat. So
I hope I'm not offending anybody here and I have had a comedian, but I can't think. No, I think you're my first one, so thanks so
This
much.
is lovely.
Scott, you've got an incredible
Well,
story.
It's
Let's start from the beginning, because although you're a funny guy and you're a comedian, right, you do have an amazing mental and physical health story to tell.
I can't be killed, right? That's no, I can't have that air of invincibility, but that got me into problems in the first place. But Shall we just
Start at the beginning. How did you get into comedy? Because you actually just started telling me that when we were getting the coffees.
Well, I was a journalist before I done stand-up comedy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But journalism started. The journalism started the stand-up comedy because I went to school with Des Clark. I don't know if you know Des Clark.
Aye.
It used to be on SMTV. Presents Heart, Drive Time, done breakfast radio for years. Me and him went to school together. I was working at his local newspaper, the Rutherglen Reformer. Des got to the final of So You Think You're Funny, which is a big sort of stand-up comedy competition that, kind of makes all sorts of names. He got to the final of that, and my editor said, why don't you get, because we'd followed his progress through the competition in the newspaper, and my boss said, why don't you try stand-up for the night? So on the 9th of May 2000, I can remember the date, the 9th of May 2000 in Bar 10, I made my first attempt on stage in a rock top with a nice big Hawaiian shirt, a proper comedy shirt, and it was all just pals and like work colleagues that were there just to sort of have a laugh and take the piss out of me. And I went on, had a cracking gig. I really loved it. Thought this was a piece of piss. Went back the following week when I had no pals and and
nobody knew you.
And nobody knew me, and I died spectacularly in my arse, but I already had the bug, so I kept on going back to it. And then I took a wee break between 23 and 25, because things went a bit weird then. So that was how I started. So I had no intention of being a stand-up comedian. That's no strictly true. My school leavers, I'd done a Billy Connolly impersonation at my primary 7 leavers concert. So I dressed up in my dad's big plumbers merchants boiler suit thing and found an old wig, and the first joke I ever performed on a stage, it was me going into a shop complaining. I don't know why Billy Connolly, I was impersonating Billy Connolly, but I also had a VHS of Billy Connolly that I wasn't happy about, and the VHS was called Billy Connolly Bites Your Bum, and I was in it to complain because it was in 3D, so I actually got my bum bit. So that was the first joke I probably ever performed that I wrote myself. Terrible, but.
And so you have been making a living out of comedy since then, apart from your couple of years, and we'll talk about your. You don't make a living at all. I certainly had been buttons. You're not making a living. Certainly when you're starting out, because you're essentially living in your trade. You're doing 5 minutes here and there. You're just trying to get stage time, trying to find your voice, you're trying to find a writing style or how you should speak on stage. So wild like that. So it's quite hard to break through, isn't it?
Aye, I mean, I've never broken through. I've just managed to keep myself working.
Oh, that's not true.
No. I've not broken through. I mean, I could stand. We're in King Street car park, right? And I live here, right? And I could stand there for the next week and nobody would recognise me, And that's fine, do you know what I mean?
Is that what breakthrough is considered as in terms of like comedians in Glasgow? In my opinion, a humble opinion, you're up there because. You were nominated for the Glasgow International Comedy Festival Award.
That was nice. That was nice. That was lovely. That was first year. You get nice wee things like that along the way. But there was when you were younger, right? And this is where when I was younger, you do have that. Oh, you're going to be a star. Right? You're going to break through, and that because you see that's the only way to have a career. That's the only way to have any validation, is to be on the telly and folk recognising you and getting loads of money. And and that can eat you up. That can drive you really quite wild for a while.
Did that contribute to your mental health?
It certainly did at some points, because you're watching people that were contemporaries, maybe going off and doing really well in different sort of fields, and then when it really gets scary is when the people that come up behind you, when some of them start to go off, so you're kind of going, right, why me? And there's no real reason. I can't remember who told us this. Right, but the best way to think about comedy, if you've seen Toy Story and you've got all the wee green aliens, right, and they all look exactly the same, but for some reason the claw comes down and picks one out and makes them a star. And that doesn't mean that any of that one's, superior to the other ones. It's just that's what the industry wanted at the time. They're probably all exactly the same as far as quality. And appeal, but the industry go, that's the one we're having, And also, now that's not taking any blame. I was also mental, right? I was probably unreliable, as well. Like, I was an inconsistent comic. Like, I could give you something really sort of brilliant, but you could also get something a bit, shite as well. So it was about finding that consistency, and I wasn't mentally well. I wasn't coping with life in general. So and it was what was on stage was therapy, and it was about I took longer to get to a sort of usable level than a lot of other people did. So
do you do other stuff as well as comedy now, then, for making a living, or was that in the past that you did other stuff? How is it now? Is it your job, your full-time job?
Right, that's all I do. Do you know what I mean?
So you did get there in the end.
Well, it's about cutting your cloth. Okay. It's about cutting your cloth and finding an easy, and it's like I don't go on holidays. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a fancy house. I'm in a house.
You live to your means, basically.
I'm in a housing association flat. Do you know what I mean? I'm now 25 stone, so clothes isn't an extravagance anymore.
But that's what you do. You live to your means to live the life that you want to live and be a comedian.
Well, it depends. It depends what is it you're looking for, And I know where I am, right, with my mental health and my physical health. I need to pace what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
You know that, you've learned that about yourself now.
Aye, like I'm presently taking 2 months off because we've not really done this, but because I had a heart attack in September 2021, heart attack, 3 cardiac arrests, and that was just as everyone was coming back from COVID. So everything went back to work. I caught COVID, which triggered a heart attack, which had a problem for 3 years. Not knowing what was wrong with me, I was tired, I was knackered, I was sweating, I didn't know what was going on with me. Turns out I had a 90% blocked right main artery going into my heart, which was caused by previous misdemeanors, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that a bit later. But so I was off work after all of that. Just after 2 years, 3 years of us nobody able to work because of COVID, everyone's going back to work. I have a heart attack, and the first time I managed to get back in a stage was the 4th of February 2022. This is 23, isn't it?
Just a year past.
So, well, that was, I probably came back too early. I was just desperate. I needed some kind of money because there was no help. There was certainly no help forthcoming until it was fought for. And I stuck on, sort of like, I'm just going to have to milk this. Ask my social media folk, you come to a gig, do you know? So I had my wee comeback gig. I ended up doing 2 45-minute sets, which I wasn't expecting to do. I thought, well, maybe manage half an hour, but once you're up there, you've not performed for 2 years, you're buzzing. And then, work was kind of consistent for there on in.
See your social media, I don't want to talk loads about this, but you've just made me think it. Is it only Facebook that you do?
Pretty much. I've got Twitter, but my Twitter's miserable. My Twitter's just me essentially retweeting sort of political accounts of politicians I agree with, or calling Tories
Aye.
nasty names.
Mm-hmm.
That's I've spoke to a couple of folk like your Twitter. My Twitter's not funny at all.
Aye, no.
Twitter's where I go and I just got that. I like Twitter because you get to sort of read and hear about things that you maybe wouldn't necessarily.
Aye, I do like Twitter for keeping up to date.
Like different maybe kind of academics or writers or columnists or opinion. That's what kind of doing Twitter. Plus, I'm off a verbose. As you've noticed, you've asked me like 2 questions and we've been speaking for about 10 minutes, right? So I enjoy, because I quite enjoy.
Like that.
Well, because I was a journalist, and I'm even, I actually write sometimes, and I've got sort of my ex-colleagues on there, and you're like, you're overwriting, do you know what I mean? Like, I like a good 1,500 word, 2,000 word essay sort
I
of
quite
thing.
like an interesting post like that as well, though. And you do them on Facebook, but I can't direct people to your Facebook because you're up at the 5,000.
I know, and that's just pure laziness, and it's like there's a mad acceptance as well. There is such a thing as a. Well, it's not even called a fan page. I've just called it. It's just Scott Agnew and old photo. I'd set that up years ago, and there's like 56 folk on it who never get anything because I never update it. But there was something a bit wanky about, was that a fan? You know, and I don't, it's...
But you have got fans.
That seems a bit...
I know, but see when you're a Glasgowian, it's so difficult to accept stuff like that. I get it.
Aye, for some folk, I mean, there's plenty of folk.
Aye, there is that as well. Aye. I suppose I relate most to you, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
No, there's something, I find that an odd thing, do you know what I mean? And I think that's what I do get on Facebook is I'll look into this, but it was somebody that works in that industry he's like that. You get a remarkable level of engagement for such a small amount of photos. So I've got you know, so I'm up at the 5,000, but we can get
good engagement,
like, and I get a good response. So like sometimes I can maybe just post something up once and it'll sell out. Do you know what I mean? And that's not just that you're looking for money, but like there's quite a kind of close knit. You know, I don't know.
Your own wee community.
So it's, I don't know.
You are on Instagram, but you don't post
There's not a single.
on it.
There's not a single.
No, have you ever posted on it?
Not a thing.
Oh, you have actually got a good.
I've got 5,000. I've got more followers on that than I have on. And
well, maybe put this podcast on it. I'll see if I can persuade you.
Do you know what? It's right. It was. I couldn't. It's. How is it? So I've got. You know, I've got a form of bipolar. I'm easily distracted, and you know I don't need. Do you know what I mean? I don't need another thing that can eat my day up. Do you know what? Like, there's days you can wake up, and you must be because you're.
I only focus on Instagram.
Right.
I'm never on my Facebook. I had you on Facebook.
Right.
I've had you on Facebook for years.
Right.
And it was somebody that said to me, "You need to ask Scott to come on." I'm like, I've got him on Facebook.
Because I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds stupid. I'm not. It's that kind of. Like, I don't know. I'm not really chasing anything like that
No,
as much.
You're no.
I've that, as I say, that kind of goes out the window. Do you know what I mean? And once you sort of go, what am I doing? I'm giving myself ulcers, and do you know what I mean? Because I'm, and the truth is that there's actually, other than going and doing the best work you can do, there's not really much you can do to affect whether, do you know what I mean? Like a TV company or an agent company wants you. They know what they're looking for. They know when they see it. And see, by this point, everybody's like all of that industry stuff. They've seen what they want to see out of me, and they either know me or they don't know me, and that's fine.
It's not going to make any difference
and I'm
to your life.
perfectly all right with that, you know.
That's fine.
As long as I can feed myself, which I'm clearly managing quite successfully at the minute.
I saw you saying the only reason I saw this wee clip. I think it was on the Glasgow International Comedy Festival page, where you said the way that you'll get found dead is what I think you say, but it was your joke. The way that you'll get found dead is because you've not ordered a Domino's for 3 weeks, and they'll come looking for you.
They'll come looking for this. That was when I break the news. The lovely team there. So it's just about doing different things and like that, like chipping away. Like I'm 42 now. You've got different priorities in life.
You know what you want, and social media is not actually where you're taking yourself, which is fine.
And I'll maybe make I probably will, because there is a kind of natural shift, because you know, less folk are on Facebook or paying less attention to it or something like that. But I like that medium. You can stick up 140
Yes.
and
Aye.
you can write nice and long.
Aye.
You know,
Yeah.
and then it's a bit fine. I'll find something else that's, do you know what I mean? That's
your
more
thing.
suited to me. I mean, I've been talking about a podcast, which everybody's doing a podcast for ages, but it's about finding the right way to do it that it works for me and that's going to suit me
And
best.
it's so important that, can't stress that enough.
Because you found your thing.
Aye, and it's no like, you know, and I'm in my 40s as well, as I was saying, it's not like, you know, it's not the end of the world that you don't discover what your thing is in your 20s or your 30s or whatever, but we do beat ourselves up about that. But actually it's no.
I would love, like, to have been able to, like, tell myself two things sort of, when I was younger, that almost every adult you've ever known is fucking busking it and winging it, right?
Aye.
Nobody knows what they're doing. Like, nobody knows what they're doing. Just some people are able to say it with a bit more authority than anything else. Now, that doesn't mean that, because I can't abide this sort of anti-science, anti-knowledge thing, you know. But as far as your sort of generally your personal life and, you know, and just emotional and dealing with themselves, most folk don't have a fucking clue and they're busking it because there's no handbook for that. Folk who do know about science and, you know, maths and English and things like that, listen to them, right? Because, like, so, and it's a fine balance, you know.
Aye.
So that would, I would try and tell folk, and don't give a fuck until you're about 35. Get a pension, because, well, I don't even know if you should bother getting a pension anymore.
Aye, I know.
Do you know
I
what it's like?
I
don't even know if that's worth.
At comfy banking, and I don't even say that to people. I don't say, oh, you need to get a pension. I mean, it's just so up in the air whether that's actually worth it or not. Aye.
You know, but like I would say, I don't know. I mean, I would probably say I never really sort of, and this might just because of how my life panned out, but I say until you're at 35, I think you're still a hormonal mess.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Aye. And you are caring about things that you don't know you shouldn't be caring about, but you figure out later, I shouldn't be caring about that.
I should not be caring about it, you know, like, and I do genuinely kind of go, I probably, the state I got myself into in my 20s and 30s
I know,
for various
let's
reasons.
talk about that, because I
Right,
don't want to
I know.
get that in your life. I don't want to
No,
get
sorry.
that in. So, your mental health, correct me if I'm wrong, you want them in to do a wee
No,
bit more. It's
that's
a wee
all right.
bit, we'll put the engine on.
I know,
get
because
the down,
it's one of the
getting a wee
mad,
bit-
it's one of the mad
so
Glasgow days where
humid.
it's humid. It still looks
raining.
as if it's October,
Aye.
but it feels like it could be the middle of June.
Aye, it's mental.
And by the way, here's another thing. Have you noticed about this car park? I've been wondering what's going on. This car park the past
They
few
put the
weeks.
price up. Are you just going to
No,
say it's quiet
no.
and done?
No, I couldn't tell you. I know
the prices
it smells.
right up.
It's been smelling like suntan lotion for weeks now, and I don't know.
Has it? I can't smell it.
Every time you walk through, and particularly at night, and you're like, this place smells as if you're at the beach. It's rare.
Oh, I never noticed that.
If you come through here,
I thought you were going to say it was quieter because you live no far from
No,
here,
I
so
just
you
live
would
there.
notice that. Aye. And it's quieter because it's went up for, I'm sure, $6.95 to $11.95 to park here.
for this
Aye.
crappy old bit, because I don't drive,
I
so
know,
I'm never
because it's a
parked
bit
here.
of West Ground, but NCP own it as a car park, and so you
I know.
pay a fortune to park in it.
Jeez,
Anyway,
man.
we digress. So what I was
right,
going to
mental
say
health.
to you, your mental, am I right in saying your mental health deteriorated before your physical health?
Oh, aye. There was nothing particularly wrong with me physically at all.
Until
So,
recently.
aye. And so at 23,
Age 23.
age 23, like I know it was when you look back at it. But anyway, I went from 23 till I was 35. Like my life was really quite spectacularly out of control. I used to call them my sort of Friday afternoon feelings, right? But you would get them kind of randomly on a Wednesday morning. You know, where you're ready to finish your work on a Friday afternoon. You're like, oh, I don't know what to be up to. Right, what am I going to do? Right, and you kind of feel this sort of mischief sort of boiling up in you, right? And then you're like, I can't wait. And then like you get out, then it's 5 o'clock and you get out the door for your work. and you go mental for the weekend.
remember
right?
those days,
Those
aye.
days, right? Where I would get that just like it would literally, it could just come on, and you're that, right? And depending on what and then you would be off, and you could just be disappeared for days and weeks, and it wouldn't matter what things you had sort of committed to. What you were off out, and I was just full of energy. It wouldn't stop, and until it absolutely and utterly burnt itself out, and that could take a fortnight to 3 weeks.
Would you call it a bender? Like a
Well,
three-week bender?
well, essentially, on the face of it, that is kind of what it looks like, right? So one was not, in the receipt of hellish much sympathy. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, but there was seriously, there was no stopping
Well,
it. And I mean, just and that folk just go, you're young and you're just full of nonsense sort of thing. But there's benders and then there's benders. Do you know?
What were you doing? What was it
well,
like?
essentially, so what happened? So the sort of biggest, which should have been a red flag straight away. So I took a job at South Lanarkshire Council, the PR department, and in the one morning I walked out the job. I went straight in as estate agents, put the house in the market, sold the house. I took the profit out of the house, which I then was standing in the middle of the Royal Bank of Scotland and Royal Main Street on a Friday afternoon, screaming for them to put it in, because they weren't going to let me withdraw it at first because they wanted to see what it had been. And I'm in the middle of the bank screaming and asked them to put the whole lot, tens of thousands of pounds, in the back of a rucksack, and I walked up the road with that. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, these mad. That money gets stuffed in the back of a drawer, because I went and I hired a penthouse flat. I rented a penthouse flat in the middle of the town, and that stayed in the back of the wardrobe, and that just allowed me to, and I lived off that for 2 years, just being a pure nutter. Do you know what I mean? But there was this, but it wasn't just, oh, you're living this big. So you were taking huge risks. Sort of, how would you put it? With your physical health, just with that never-ending, never going home, never, constantly partying. You were putting, you were taking financial risks. Nothing mattered. Nothing cared.
Just
do you know what I mean?
pure chaos.
It was just total chaos until, I then also had this mad thing. So I tried to take my own life on my 25th birthday. So I had this mad thing. I had to be 25. That's a nice round number. It's a quarter of a century. I'll do it on my birthday, so there's only one day to mourn. So you had all of this nonsense, wrapped up. There was a mad kind of OCD thing with it. And that never happened because a phone call came through and it never went anywhere. But essentially, I had burnt everything out. I had nothing. Like I had planned for that date, so there was no money left. There wasn't even a cigarette in a carton. Do you know what I mean? I'm still supposed to be in this flat, and it never. And there was nothing, and I hadn't planned beyond this date. So that Sunday, I'm going, I need some money. Right, I need cigarettes for a start to sort of comprehend what I was intending to do. And I spoke to a guy who was a promoter who refused to give me money. He's like, you've not worked for 2 years. You've not been on, you've not done stand up for 2 years. Like, there's no guarantee me getting anything back. And I'm like, well, I'm like seriously in the shit. I just need something. I explained what I'd done. He went, well, next Friday, come along to Blackfriars basement. Next Friday and Saturday, I want you to do the opening 10-15 minutes, right? And I'll come over and I'll give you £50, and so you'll get £25 for each gig. And I would have agreed to anything at that point, just for a fucking cigarette. And I'm like, aye, that's fine. So that's how I started back doing stand up. So there was no intention, no love for it. It was just I needed.
You were desperate.
I was desperate, and I knew I couldn't hold down. A normal job, because like my moods wouldn't take it. Sleep patterns were all over the place. You could I mean, as much as I'm telling you all the highs, I could tell you about, you would sit in the house in your pants for, 6 weeks at a time, and you just no one to see MD. Now there was a nice wee sweet spot in the journey from sitting in your pants to normal, and then there's a tiny wee sweet spot as you're heading towards that. It's not quite manic. Where you're dead creative, the house is sparkling, all your admin's done, like everything you need to get done, and you're great company, you're good chat and all the rest of it, and then it hits the top end, and
you're off the scale.
You're off the scale, and it was like that for years and years and years, on and off. And I made further attempts on my own life. My final attempt on my own life was 5th of November 2012. I was supposed to be flying out to New York Comedy Festival the next morning with friends and colleagues, and my gran had died earlier that year, and I hadn't, and I had another relationship breakup, and I hadn't dealt with it well at all. Again, I was out of control as far as sort of cash. You've never, and I'd been in and out about 10 different addresses in 10 years. No knowing what was going on with me, asking folk so I was constantly attending doctors, asking for help. I think I seen maybe one psychiatrist in that 10-year period between 23 and 33, who did identify something, but it never went any further because you're expected to keep these appointments. Do you know what I mean? And I know that sounds stupid. Of course you've got to keep your appointments, but if you're an absolute mess, if you don't keep the appointment, then you end up down the bottom of the list again. There's never help there when it's absolutely needed. And there was many times you go, oh, I'm fine. It was just another mad spell, and I'm doing fine. So you don't want to ruin the nice time when you're all right by going back and dealing with it, because you're like, no, it's all right, I'm fine, I'll be all right this time, because I know what happened the last time. I think that's the bit that's wrong, and you're like, no, it's not. There was nothing you could have done about it. You just had this urge that you could not stop. So that was kind of. So as I say, the last attempt was as an outright attempt would have been November 5th, 2012, because I'd managed to fall out with my mum, my granda, my sister, and then subsequently one of my best pals. I was quite isolated. I was actually just that street there, so it was.
Oh really?
Aye, that was where I was at the time. So there was kind of a conscious decision, almost a conscious decision. I'm clearly crap. I wasn't able to
function.
I wasn't able to function. I also wasn't able to commit suicide. I was pulling it off. So there was kind of I dabbled and fell into this kind of chemsex scene as well, which included injecting crystal meth. And I kind of went, well, fuck it. Do you know what I mean? There was a real kind of fuck it attitude, excuse my language, to that. And it's uncomfortable, and and it was what it was. Bizarrely.
But it's your life.
But it's my life, and that's the way it is. Bizarrely, with the crystal meth and the MCAT was meow plant food, methadone it would have been called, right? That actually gave me some power and control. I chose when when I was high, when I was manic. So so I knew that if I injected that and was had a mad party for 3 or 4 days, then I would be up for the 3 or 4 days, and I know I would be and I come down for them. So it actually gave me some odd predictability and a really mad, stupid logic, right? Which was quite appealing. There was also there was weight loss. There was a lot of things that you maybe weren't feeling before. There was obviously sort of there was a lot of guilt-free sex, which can be difficult to sort of get as a gay man because there's always things attached to it. You know, there's a lot of guilt around about it, and body dysmorphia issues. But if you think you're beautiful and everybody else is beautiful, and you're only interested in one thing, it's a bigger topic than
we've got time
for. But that eventually, you know, but that first 18 months was wonderful. You know, I'm not going to lie to you and say that, if I could have that 18 months again, I would go for it without hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
However, but that's not how it works. You know, so the 18 months,
you can't really sustain it.
No, it's unsustainable, and also, you know, it's the verve, you know, because the drugs don't work. You know, it becomes a different thing, you know, and it's harder to get any kind of higher joy out of it. It starts to scramble your mind a lot more, you know, and starts to give you, you know, paranoia increases, depression increases, you know, hallucinogenic, blah blah blah. So all of that sort of starts to sort of come into it, and it just and then the group of friends that you, or the group that you're in, you know, that starts to fall apart because that paranoia starts to feed into one another, and you know, the trust starts to fall away, and it just becomes like you become this wee sort of how would you call it? Kind of wee.
Recluse?
No, that's kind of a wee enclave of madness that's together as a group of people, and then folks start to fall it, and then you do end up pretty much you're on your own, you know.
So was there a turning point? Was there a turning point at that point?
I was diagnosed with HIV on March 27th, 2015.
We're familiar with that here on this podcast.
Right.
You had, she's a good friend of mine now, Emma. I'd been looking for somebody to talk about HIV for ages. Emma came on, just briefly, because this is your story. Emma came on to share her experience with domestic violence.
Right, okay.
And she ended up with an HIV diagnosis, but she told me that at the end of our domestic violence chat, but then she came back because obviously I'm in my 40s, I lived through the 80s, I knew the stigma that was still attached to HIV from 30 years ago. And that's not what it is now, so we know in this podcast
right, that's
HIV.
fine, that's all right, you know. Well, I mean, that kind of really changed things, because as much as, and this is going to sound, and I've spoken, but there was as much as there was that sort of kamikaze, after that last failed suicide attempt, there was this kind of kamikaze, let's just go for it, do you know what I mean, as far as what's happening, and that could have ended anyway, but there's something very, very different about when you actually get a diagnosis.
Aye. So that was that a turning point for you?
Yes, it was a turning point. I'll tell you for why in particular. It was a turning point because as part of the Brownlee Centre up at Gartnavel, which is an infectious diseases clinic, and that's the Brownlee look after people with HIV have done, and they're an amazing team up there. As part of that care, there's a psychiatrist who's there all the time. Do you know? Who was able to look at that and go, like, why have you not been diagnosed with, why have you not been treated with anything, do you know? So with all of that being involved, I get a year. I was every week for a year. I was at Leverdale seeing a psychotherapist.
Purely because you got an HIV diagnosis.
That was we were cycling towards that anyway, but it took. As I say, it took 13 years of an HIV diagnosis to get the help that I required.
It took 13 years after
No, 13 years from when I first felt
unwell to getting it. So do you reckon you had it for that long?
No, HIV. No. Sorry. I'm talking about mental health issues, right? No, it's quite funny, and a lot of folk kind of said this. Like, my HIV is like the least of my worries, right?
You've got a better prognosis than me, as I said to Emma. It's like the people don't realise.
It's all these, because it's one tablet a day. I take the tablet and never think about it.
And you're undetectable,
Undetectable,
untransmittable.
So, oh God, you're right, yeah, never. So
we know here, Scott.
we know here, that's all right, So it's, so like that is oddly the least wee thing, and some people have slapped me for it, but I've always ended up. I've said this so many times that I'm so thankful for that HIV diagnosis, or for how that was a kind of snapping point in my life. I don't, because I got access to the help that I needed, for my mental health. It also helped me to value people an awful lot more.
A massive wake-up call, even although it's not the death sentence that it used to be, but for you, but that aside,
and I think there's also something a bit weird goes on in my mind as well, and this for somebody who has had this in a sort of fascination or fixation on maybe a suicide, or always had those kind of dark thoughts. There's actually some quite comforting, and this sounds really weird, and I'll probably get slapped a bit for it. About having so I take my tablet once a day, but I kind of feel as if I've got a bit of a way out. Do you know what I mean? If I so choose, I can stop taking that tablet. Now I don't do that, and I haven't done it. But there's something for me I find quite reassuring about that. Now it would be a fucking long, slow, miserable, painful death. But unless I get some kind of opportunistic infection, but there's something in me that finds that quite comforting, and I find
just that level of control.
That you can,
and it is, you're in control. You're in control.
If I don't want to, I can just stop taking that, and I don't need to, and we'll see where it takes us. And that's miserable as get out, but that's I can't.
It's your reality.
But it's my reality. So there was something quite settling about that. But as I say, and this is, I know I'm a comedian and I've not said anything funny. This is terrible.
And I've just taken my fake coffee. I thought, oh no, he's going to say something funny and it'll go everywhere.
It's shocking. Oh, sorry.
I drink your tea.
I've dribbled on.
It's alright, it's just water.
I know, but you've got enough for clean water.
I know, but I only cleaned it for you getting in.
I so you did.
I did. I cleaned it before people
look
get
at this.
in. I have to. You've got a wee bit of rain, but it's alright. It'll all wipe off, so long as we're not overheating. One of the podcasts I did overheated.
Did you?
It's packed in, but we saved it. It was fine, we got it.
Oh man. So that was So when I mean, it sounds all quite grim. So what I do on this, what I do when I'm on stage.
But you did turn your life around, though, and that's the point.
Well, you kind of. I think I just get tired as well. Just get knackered. I think I think there's an element of I just burnt a lot of,
energy.
And as I say, I mean, but genuinely the best thing that ever happened to me was the psychotherapy up at the Iverdale. As I say, it took ages to get that, and so I got that. That was a full year, and it was like genuinely, like that was.
What type of, you were going to say there what you do in the stage. I want you to say what that is.
Okay, no, I mean it's essentially telling all these mad stories that happened to me whilst you were bouncing about, either on one of these sort of highs. So what I was diagnosed with, sort of I should give the name of, was cyclothymia, right? Which is bipolar, but you're not quite up. It's no Premier League bipolar, right? it's champion. It's the championship, right? Where your highs are never quite as high, so you never get into a psychotic or a hallucinogenic state with it. But it's a really pacey full mania. That you're kind of just always in the go and all the rest of it. And then so your highs aren't as high, your lows aren't as low as full blown bipolar, if you like, but they do come round a bit more frequently. So they come round about every sort of 6 to 8 weeks, which you could almost put the kettle on, which when you sat back and look at it and you go, oh, look at that, you know what I mean? So I'm given a diagnosis of that, and then also I work with a psychotherapist to be able to spot patterns, spot things that were annoying you, things that were making you angry, things that you were essentially acting out against that had been on in your life.
I do notice a difference in you from when I first followed you, because there was, if I mind right, I mean, you're very opinionated anyway. I like somebody to be opinionated because it's far more interesting, but I feel there's a lot less anger. I'm not. Because even what you were putting out was probably a bit more angry.
Oh no, it was, and I think it's just, it's maybe just, I don't know. It's just, it's trying to understand the world a wee bit more, and anger's not really getting us very far, because we've not been getting very far with anger, and I'm still forceful and I still get angry, but it's no.
And were you diagnosed with anything like depression or anxiety?
So over the years,
tell us your list.
Over the years, right, I have been diagnosed. I mean, GPs, they've called me an alcoholic, a drug addict, a sex addict, a gambling addict. I was a shopping addict briefly. Do you know what I mean? Like, you name it, they were. And
do you accept that? Do you see yourself as all of
No, because they were all. No, the reason I kept on getting diagnosed with something else is because I could, like, when they told me, like, I could stop drink, so I wouldn't drink, but then I would go and find something else. So I always just found something else, So I'd given up drink, I'd given up drugs. The next minute I'm in the casino. Right, I'd never gambled in my life, right? But I was constantly, I needed to feed.
Looking for that thing.
I needed a buzz or something that would keep me, that would allow that energy out me somehow, So, like, those were all just symptoms of something else, or conduits. So, like, I mean, folk didn't even believe, like, I drink. I've always been through journalism, through stand-up. It's a bit a kind of boozy industry, but I only drink if I'm out. Like, so, like, I went through the lockdown, and which is why I was fucking raging when the heart attack happened, because I mean, I've not kept a drop of booze in my house since 2005. So I was in that flat. I went through the whole lockdown because
Stone cold sober,
right? I was probably eating better than I'd ever eaten, like, because I'm no staggering home buying fucking kebabs and things like that. I was actually making stuff in the house. So, and I was getting fatter and fatter. I'm like, how is this? Other folk give up drink, right? Other folk give up drink and the weight drops off them. And I've not had a drop to drink. I'm cooking for myself. I'm eating, we're not getting rolls and sausages because everywhere was shut, And we did the rolls and sausages in the house, but different thing. You're in the house, sausages, right? But, do you know what I mean? And I'm like, what the hell's going on with me? And I was knackered all the time. So, but nobody believes, and I'm like, I don't drink in the house because I don't need it, if that makes any sense in the house, because it's a social crutch. It's something that gives me a wee bit more confidence, because I can stand in front of an audience, is great, and I'm fine one-to-one if I'm out with people, but see if I end up, see if it's a big group of pals out, I think it's a waste of time for a start. Nobody's talking. Oh, you're right. You're right. Oh, that's great. How's the Wednesday? Oh, brilliant. Right, you don't get any proper blather, There's 9 teenagers out. Who cares, right? I'd sooner. Now, my mother, because my mother then thinks that's an excuse for me to drink, because I have to meet all my pals individually, right? But I like to get a proper natter like this.
So I agree with you. I think
get into the reads, But is there 80s going to?
You know what?
So I find that kind of intimidating, and you kind of end up in this strange way I need to perform. So I'll have a drink in that sort of situation if I'm going into pubs and I don't know people, and that. But if I'm in the house, who am I drinking for? Nobody. Why would you want to roll about your house pissed? Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's nobody else there, what is the point? So anyway, despite looking after myself, look at this, we're at 43 minutes.
That's
right.
fine.
Despite all that, thought I was looking after me, I get the COVID and I have the heart attack, and that.
That was mental. I remember reading about that.
I was just, I mean, the crystal meth, the injecting drug use was part of the reason why.
Do you think your lifestyle really did trigger that?
Oh, aye, of course it did.
And did they say that to you? Or did you tell them?
No, well, I mean, I've always been open. I've always been honest about you know, both my HIV status and my past drug use, because there's no point. These people are they're medical folk. They're there to help you, you know. And there's no point if you start lying and then they're trying to figure out there's something wrong with you and you've not been fully truthful with them. You're not giving them all the evidence to help you. You know what I mean? So you might as well be honest with them. So that things like that, and it's interesting as well. A couple of times I'd been in A&E for stuff, you know, and so like on my file it'll say IDU, you know, and you know, and I love, you know, can love the NHS, the people that work in it, but you know, occasionally they'll walk in.
There is an ignorance, we discovered that. That even in the NHS, because
they walk in and they expect a certain, if you've got injecting drug user on the thing, and they're expecting a certain type of client, you know. And I mean, I remember having one guy in A&E, you know, one doctor in A&E, kind of go, "Can I check your name again?" And I'm like, "It's Scott Agnew." Right. An IDU. And I went, you know, and it's like they don't expect you to be articulate or, you know, able to talk to them, you know.
But that's a whole other conversation actually as well, Scott. I've talked about this before, but not for ages. And it's one of these things. It's like accents, like especially in Scotland. If you've got a certain particular way of speaking or accent, people automatically decide or, you know, judge your level of intelligence
I mean,
based on the way that you speak.
Because I don't necessarily have any. What have I got? I've got my hires, right? That was it. So
no, but that's not what intelligence is.
No, but it's not. No, it's not. I mean, I know plenty of dafties that have got, you know, degrees coming out their ears.
Aye.
And you know, I know that's being able to study and pass an exam. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think it denotes intelligence as such. You know, and I've seen it. I mean, I've been amongst friends, sort of sitting in a. Remember sitting in the Italian restaurant over and just off Byers Road, Vino Valentino's, which Vino Valentino's lovely. It's beautiful wine and Portugal. I didn't particularly like wine. I just realised it's not that I didn't like wine, so I don't like cheap wine. So in there it's proper like £40 a bottle stuff. You're like, oh, this is
nice.
You know, but sitting amongst friends, and the woman that runs the place, she imports herself.
She knows her stuff.
She knows her stuff, and I'm sitting with friends who are, let's just say, they've come from the unis or the conservatoires and whatnot, and how the conversation came up about the Italian election, and I started talking to them about the Italian election, and there was this not a silence around the like, how did you know about that? Because I read stuff, you know. But there's a kind of idea. You're the comedian, you're the clown. You've also got that accent, so you've got kind of know it, you know. And a lot of my stories, on stage stories, are shagging stories or drug stories, things like that. As if you've got no other interest in anything else, and you go, well, actually, you know, I can sit and I can actually hold bone with things like that sometimes.
No, I do think comedians, this is just my personal view, are extremely intelligent. How are you able to tell stories if you've not got a bit of, you know, intelligence to read the room, know what to...
There's nothing more frustrating than a thick comedian. Do you know what I mean? Like...
I always think they're pure intelligence, so if it's a thick comedian, I would think to myself, I don't think that they would struggle with that. I mean, you're being totally judgmental. I feel bad even using the word.
No, but no, I can't. Nah, sorry, I'm not having that. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. But go back to your story where the guy in the hospital, he said to me, "Oh, IDU." Tell that story.
So he was obviously expecting some kind of wee sort of shriveled up kind of, you know, and I hate using the word, you know, junkie, do you know what I mean? Whereby he's got this bloke that was 6'5", it was much slimmer and better shape. Do you know what I mean?
Handsome.
When he teeth, so, and it's that you don't realise, you know, that there's a whole other world.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think people really know what is going on in society.
Well, I mean, when I was you know, when I first started crystal meth and started using, I was in London. I was taught how to inject by an Oxford professor. Right, I was taught how to find my veins, and there was, you know, it was not a working class, if that makes any sense, pastime. This was a middle class sort of professionals thing, and professional class sort of pastime within the gay community. So got this idea that, and also the number of medics you meet that were abusing and various types was astonishing. So it was. So it's interesting as a, you know, I mean that's, as I say, particularly within the LGBT community, or gay men, we're using it as a pastime.
Aye, there's a big thing there. You've just got me thinking. That's something I need to try and get somebody to come and talk about, because I've had a few people say to me, like you, like the gay community is something else, the gay men community. I wonder if Andy would be willing to spill the beans on that, give us an insight. I mean, it's a variety of things. It's so Russell T Davies uses that wrote Queer as Folk and Cucumber. He uses a lovely phrase, like gay men, in particular, have a delayed adolescence, right? Because they can't be out, and it's maybe changing now, but they weren't able to be out at school, and they couldn't express who they liked and they loved. So actually, it's delayed, certainly until they can leave school, possibly even until they leave university, right? So then they kind of get fired out into the world where they can sort themselves out, and they are behaving like teenagers in their 20s, but unfortunately they've also got the capital, you know, and the cash of a wage that you would have as anybody else would in their 20s. There's also a lot of shame with regards to your sexuality. And just the act in itself is, you know, you've got 1,000 voices in your head telling you the act in itself is dirty. So how do you block that out? You've also got, you know, just the history of HIV and AIDS, where sex was something that led to illness and death. You know, so how does that make you horny? Do you know what I mean? I'm going to stick my dick in you and I could die. You know, so so you get all of these kind of perfect storms, all of these things sort of clashing, sort of together. And it's like, you know, it's that just men not being comfortable, being intimate, you know, or showing affection. So how do you drop all those barriers? It's the best drugs you can find. You know, you go into a dark fucking cave or a cellar for a weekend, you know, for dancing and you know, so it's people. It's essentially people try to cure a problem somehow. Do you know what I mean? And that leads to a whole load of other problems.
That's to a whole bunch of other problems as well. You know, so and that's, you know, kind of why it's important if you're wanting functioning adults. You know, it's why it's important that people are able to sort of see or understand, you know, that there are people like them out in the world, that what they are doing is not dirty and horrible, and it, you know, which is why, I don't know, this is a big thing, folk talking about the sex education in schools. Don't listen to the Daily Express and they do it. They're no teaching Wednesday ram double enders up on it themselves, right? That's right. They're no, do you know what I mean? That's not what's happening. But it's getting painted like that. It's just literally about kids having a bit more awareness about what's out there. Because I'll tell you, I'm sure my mother would have rather a bit of a more embarrassing, you know, conversation when I was 13 or 14 with getting a proper sex education than me having 13, 14 years bouncing about with my mental health shite and then full of drugs and trying to top yourself. Do you know what I mean? We could have a far easier ride. I'm not blaming everything at that. There's probably genetic reasons. There's probably mistakes of my own. But you've got some personal experience to form your views about how you feel about that. And you got that. Oh, if I had just thought that the idea of being a homosexual was not awful. Was alright. Actually, I've seen a homosexual that might have kind of looked and behaved a wee bit like me, you know, because you know, at the end of the day, what did we have at that, you know, in the 90s? We had, you know, we had Graham Norton, we had Julian Clary, and I'm sitting going, I'm no that kind of homosexual. I'm not that. You know, so I was looking at my kid, you know, I was looking at my classmates who were all into girls, and I'm like, well, I know I'm not that, but also know I'm not that. As such, that's how I felt, because I didn't. There was a fear about identifying with that level of femininity, which I don't have anymore. You know, I find if I'm a big, but I'm 42 now. You're old, you don't care. You can tell him to fuck off now. Do you know what I mean? But at that time it mattered. Kind of going, well, I'm not a sissy, so I'm not that. But that was all you had.
I've heard that word for ages. And back then that was a word.
You know,
it's just no. So thankfully we've moved on.
So it's just important that kids can see as many different types of people that exist, and it's not going to groom them or turn them into anything else. Do you know what I mean? Because your Wayne is going to be what your Wayne is. There's no amount of, because if that's the case, there shouldn't be a homosexual in the world, because we were all brainwashed with heterosexuals all the telly. Do you know what I mean? For morning, noon and night.
Listen, I agree with you. I personally think to myself, by protecting, that's how people want to see it, their Waynes from anything, certain stuff, you can't do it. Like you have to get to an acceptance, a level of acceptance that you cannot protect your child from. You can't really protect them for anything.
No,
anything.
And this is where I think my argument. This is where I get angry. This is where I do get angry. You know, and there was the big furore about the Sam Smith costume the other week. And you're like, would you live under a rock? Right, he's been like that. They've been like that for months, dressing like that. They've been all over the TV. They've been all over everywhere. So anybody that did take their child, then clearly they were happy for their child to see Sam Smith like that.
But sometimes I think these things are easier to say than actually reality what happened. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what if there was Waynes at that? The Waynes. But was there any Waynes at that? And who doesn't know what Sam Smith wants to be?
I know.
Even I know, and I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan either, but you pick up these things by osmosis. It's just the way the world is, you know? But then you're going, but see if they're, you know...
But it's all big hypothetical, but what if?
Yes, a lot of what ifs.
What abouters my favourite type of people.
I know. See, like the Glasgow Live people. What? You know, so the council spent money on this. But what about? And you're like, well, it doesn't matter what they spend money on. You're like, what about? So, like that. No, so we're building a shelter for the homeless. But what about the old people?
What about the drug addicts?
What about the drug addicts? But then in another article, all that money, they're nothing but bloody junkies. You're like, all right, so they're junkies under this article, but the poor drug users in another article. You're like, don't give us it.
I know.
Folk, what you're saying is you don't want to pay any council tax, right? And you're just anything they spend money on, they're not going to be happy with, But as I say, if parents are that bothered, and you see all these people going that, what if the Waynes see it, and you're like that? No. You found something. There's probably a wee bit of prejudice in there.
Story we can make up here about this. Let's just.
You want to have a rant or rave? See if you really were. See if you were really concerned. About your Wayne's getting groomed. You wouldn't give them a smartphone. Simple as that.
I know.
It's like.
You can't.
Do you know where all the?
To me, it's just such a pointless argument when you talk about the Waynes, because you're never going to be able to protect them.
100%.
And I use that word loosely, just because that's what the word that you use.
And the amazing thing is, the ones that I've been at protests, so I don't run until been at protests and there's been all kind of anti sort of trans stuff been happening this year.
Yeah.
And I've been called a pedo more times this year than I care to remember, right? And there was one particular sort of one of these paedophile hunter organisations were kind of hanging about looking at our protests and all the rest of it, right? And then you go on their page, right, and you're like that. They rant and rave, this is not me saying this does not happen. Yes, it does happen, right? But they rant and rave, about Asian grooming gangs, and they rant and rave about, you know, LGBT people, like, and then you're like that. When you just look at all the people you're turning up, it is everybody you're turning up at their front door. It is white, straight men, right? And it's the biggest distraction technique from one part of society actually having to take a wee bit of responsibility for their own actions, do you know? Because if we're looking at that 2, 3, 4%.
No, you're right. It exists in every walk of life.
It exists in every walk of life, but it's like, no, but let's focus on these bits, because then we, like, the 50% of the population can then walk away scot-free. They don't need to worry about it because we're too busy shouting at them, and I'm like, and that's
dangerous in itself.
That's dangerous in itself. Sorry.
No, it's fine, and we're just over an hour, but I do want to ask you about how you are now, because you've had all the mental health that is just, you know, it's phenomenal that you've actually came through that. Then you've got the physical health, and it's phenomenal that you've came through all of that. But how do you exist now, Scott? What's your kind of philosophy on life?
Very slowly. No, it's like, what my philosophy, it's trying. Right, I always try to at least try and have some kind of wee project or something to look forward to. Just a wee thing, you know. Always have a goal. I've always found, I found that helpful. What was really helpful was after my HIV diagnosis and I was trying to get off the drugs, and Karen Corrin, that owns a Gilded Balloon, she's like, would you do a fringe show about it? You know, it was a woman that worked for Lindsay Howarth, and like that. So I had that fringe to work towards like the next year. So that, having that thing to work towards, always have a wee goal.
That works for you.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. It's, you know, if you're trying to give up something, it's essentially just like dieting. Just because you eat 2 chocolate biscuits doesn't mean you eat the whole packet. You know, so like it took me from 2015 till more or less the end of 2017, early 2018 to get off, you know, injecting drug use. And it was just a case of, like, you went one day without it, like, let's try and go for 2 days without it, you know. If you fall off the horse, be kind to yourself. If you do fall off the horse, that's fine, but then, you know, have rules for when you fall off the horse. If you fall off the horse, you're like, right, well, we're on it for one night, you know, we don't go back to the dealer, you know, to buy another load. You know, so that's it. Once it's done, and then we start again tomorrow, and we try and go for 1 day longer than the last time. And you know, it took me. I mean, I got to a stage where I was going just about 3 weeks, and I was finding it really difficult to get beyond the 3 weeks. So apparently, there's something quite magical. Your body, like, it takes 3 weeks to break or make a habit, but you want to hold on to it. So if you know that you're at a 3 week thing, that's quite a common place to fall down. I've read, I'm led to believe, I read that somewhere, don't quote me, I'm not an expert, that's just my experience, right? But so I have that to sort of
have wee goals to
go for.
Do you do any therapy? Do you go to
I still have access to, like, counselling and therapies and whatnot.
And do you use that?
I you know, so and it's nice. I mean, I can kind of drop in and just have a good old rant and a rave.
That keeps you right.
That keeps me right, you know. But I'm better at just sort of processing my thoughts. But physically, I'm fat as fuck, raging, right? Because this is right. So 3 cardiac arrests. I come back from the dead 3 times, and I get prescribed a walking group, right? So I'm on my walking group.
I love a walk.
Do you know, I was loving my walks as well. I was having a great time, right? And I lost 4 stone straight after the heart attack, right? And then I was something no right with my left foot. My foot is fucked, right? So turns out the walking boot that I'd bought, right? I ended up with extensor tendonitis, so I was taking the tendon off the top of my left foot. So there was fuck all I could do other than just to stop walking. So that was it. The walking was up a kai until it sort of healed itself. I put the weight back on, plus 2 stone. So I'm just about getting back to sort of, I can get about But I've done my back doing a shite this week, so which is what you didn't see off camera. I was like that. I was 10 minutes late because I pulled a muscle in my back because this is so physically I'm alright.
And you're getting back on track physically as well.
Because we were saying this earlier. It's identifying when you're because when we went through the whole Glasgow Comedy Festival, I was feeling knackered. I was feeling no great. And I've had another month of stuff, and I'm like, right, no, I'm taking May and June off, and that's going to be TLC for myself. Just looking, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it from, it's almost like ground zero, from like the day I had my heart attack, and just start that physio program again, and build it up with that.
So identifying when you need a break.
When you need a break.
Time for you.
And taking a wee bit of time and read as much as you can. Listen to as much sort of nice
Educate yourself.
Aye.
And listen to what? Chill out music. Is that what you were going to say? I like that as well.
Aye, a bit of chill out music. You know what? I'll tell you, one of the things that saved me was the second side of the Ariel album, Kate Bush's Ariel album, right? Which is just beautiful. So there's a lot of bird song and all the rest of it. And if you like that, that nice high pitched animatic, it's very, very chilled.
Music therapy is proven to help the brain.
Yeah, well that was, and I've always done it without realising it. Like, even in my teens, when mother and father were down the stairs, fucking going at it, fighting and all the rest of it, and it would be like that, it was a duvet right over, and it was, generally Kate Bush, The Ninth Wave, that album. Just found her very, very soothing. Do you know what I mean? And you could just hide and feel like another world. You were somewhere else. So I've always kind of done that. I listened to.
Music's a big thing.
Yeah, and for some reason, I think when you get older, I don't know. You're no in touch with it. I think it's really I think it's really positive to have it around you.
I agree, definitely. Well, listen.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No, I've not been funny at all.
No, you've been amazing.
Really
but
been
it was your
unfunny.
story. I wanted your story anyway, and you've shared that.
Right, so the next time I come on, right?
You're going to come on again?
I'm going to come on again. I've invited myself back, right? And it'll be my fucking 10-stone weight loss journey.
And you can come, right, deal. Right, we'll see you next time.
So when I come off 10 stone lighter,
see you
I'll
later.
tell you my cancer diagnosis. No,
Don't
no, I'm
say
joking.
that.
No, listen,
Right.
do you know, this is terrible. This is because me and Janie are on the phone, and in order to get her, do you know what I mean?
And she's going through her treatment.
She's going through her treatment. So me and her joke, because the thing was, like, for 6 weeks, I was getting all the attention because I had the heart attack, right? And then she told me about cancer diagnosis.
She's a bad joke about that.
And they gave a toss about me, right? So me and her joke about that. Do you know what I mean? So we're getting we're probably a bit too
close to the bone, maybe.
close to the bone, but it's our wee dark sense of humour. I know, and it's kept us going. So it has, you know.
That's good. Well, you can come back.
I had to explain myself there. I just ruin it right at the end, but that's how we've been getting on with things.
You come back and share your weight loss journey. Right, we'll see you next time.
See you next time, thank you.
Bye.